So what about the rest of us? What about the rest of us disappointed believers who wanted that dream that we've been shown in the movies of, getting the girl and being able to walk up and have somebody like us and see us for ourselves, and we could be unapologetically ourselves. What about us? I know that we're told, be alpha, learn game. But, some of us are just trying to live our simple lives. And I know for me, started off probably elementary school where I would see, a cute girl and I'd be like, well, what do I do? And there's some cool kids and they were talking to them. But, I was introverted, shy, socially awkward, all of those things. And it was like out of reach. I could see it. I could imagine it. But, how do we put that together? And, I had my little posse of similarly struggling individuals, and we used to talk about scenarios, but, how do you pull that off? And so, dating was pretty much non-existent for many, many years. I'd say till high school. I think in high school I finally went on a date and wasn't good at it. I can tell you that. Wasn't good at it because there was no practice. It's just like what you see in the movies. And the movies are not good teachers on like what your date should be like and how that should go. I've been engaged 5 times and married twice. And so now I'm pretty good at it. I can't necessarily tell you how to make a relationship last for a long time, but I definitely have learned how to go on dates, been on a ton of dates, and how to get the beginnings of the relationships. So in high school, I know that I put a lot of weight on the relationships. All the women were on a pedestal, and I was just trying to be as nice as possible, just trying to be a good guy. And I watched a lot of movies where, old-timey movies where everyone's like romantic. So I tried to be romantic, and that did not work well. I would say all of that beginning was disaster, but it was learning experiences. I was learning a lot, but it didn't feel like the learning that you want. It was more like, I don't want this type of learning, because it was just rejection. And then a lot of times me messing things up, sometimes them, the girls messing things up. But I had to keep putting those reps in because that's what I wanted. I didn't want to even go on like a billion dates. That wasn't necessarily my goal. I just was like, let's just keep it simple. Just give me one good one, and I'll just settle down with that one good one, and then I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'll check that box, and then I can move on with my life and just do other things because I have the relationship down. It's done. And now I don't have to spend all of my time wondering about it. So that's what the goal was. Just find one good one. But life had other plans. And so that's why I talk about us disappointed believers. We're told one thing. The media shows us something. Social media shows us something. The movies show us something. But then when we're actually out there, it's not like that. It's totally different. And so I think one of the turning points for me in college initially, because high school was just disastrous, and the summer after high school was disastrous. And I started trying to talk and flirt and all that, but it, for the most part, was not landing. College kind of changed things a little bit because I met this guy, Deshaun, who was really, he had no filter and he didn't seem nervous or anything like that. So then when I was with him and we went out to talk to girls, it was way easier just because he did not validate that nervousness. I'd be like, I don't know if we should go. And he'd just like, come on, let's just go talk. And then I was just next to him and we would go and just start talking to people, whether it's at the mall or at McDonald's. And it wasn't like talking to them necessarily like, hey, do you want to go out? It was just engaging in conversation, just starting a conversation and not being serious, just goofy conversations. And those went really well. And I was like, oh, this is a lot easier just to at least get that first part. And that was kind of a little breakthrough, the first little breakthrough. But then he went somewhere else, and then it was just me again out in the world. And then all that came back, all those insecurities came back. And so, but I still tried. And that there was still a lot to work on, a lot of failure. I'd say one of the big turning points, though, is getting out of my regular environment. Here's the problem with your standard environment where you're from, where you grew up, everything right there, trying to operate in that scope. It's that all of your habits that you've developed and all those insecurities, they are kind of from that place where you're at. And so when you're looking around, all of that reinforces that personality, that version of you that is nervous, that is scared, that doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what to say. And so I found the breakthrough for me was when I went someplace different. I know that people say, no matter where you go, there you are. You can't run away from yourself. You are there, but at the same time, I think of it like when you're on vacation, you're a different person. So like me, I'm Nick. Vacation Nick is different. And so if I was somewhere else, then I was more confident because it was almost like a simulation, like a dream. If I go visit friends in South Carolina, I'm in Denver, Colorado right now. If I go to South Carolina, then I go out and talk to someone. This is not my home. If I can talk to someone and then I can easily never see them again, so the stakes aren't as high. If I'm in my neighborhood and I talk to somebody and I fail, then I might see them at the grocery store. And right now that doesn't bother me, but it used to really bother me. And so that version of me that is out in the world, out somewhere different, and it doesn't have to be another state or another country. It could just be, one town over. Then I could talk a little bit more. I'm not saying that all of a sudden I was some like super playboy, but I noticed that I would loosen up a little bit if I was in a new environment because they don't know me. They don't know any backstory. I can be whatever I want. And so I can choose to be different. And so I seemed to be more interesting when I was outside of my normal day-to-day operation zone, one part removed over. And so I started talking to girls, and it started working, but I learned a lot along the way. Like, there's some terms like opening, when you're opening someone. And so some people are really good at that initial volley of conversation, and then some people are not good at that, but they're good after that, once someone gets to know them. And I learned for me, I initially wasn't good at that opening conversation, but then I got fairly good at the opening, but then right after that, I would fumble. So it was like, if I'm going to try to have a relationship with someone, I need to do it before they get to know me. To try to do something, I need to do it right at the very beginning. Now, that's a little different. It's not, but that's how it initially was. Initially, I would always fumble the first contact because I was trying to be pleasant, nice, gentlemanly, and romantic. And that always was met with either disdain or friend zone stuff. But then when I remembered that my friend Deshaun had, always said, just make it goofy. Don't be serious, and don't be, they're not looking for romance. They say that they're looking for romance, but they're not looking for romance. So just be more withdrawn and goofy. And that worked. But when I was trying to be, so for example, back in the day, when I was first trying to engage with people, I would try to say something like cool and romantic that I saw from a movie, or I'd sing a little song to serenade them. So instead of trying to be romantic, I would just, like one of the conversation starters, I know that in all these books about game and pickup and all that, they have all these different things that never really worked for me. I'm sure they would be like, it works for everyone if you do it, but I'm not trying to not be myself. But there's certain topics that you can throw out there. Like I would try to, all these different things, and one of the leading things that I ever asked was cheese. What kind of cheese do you like? You like cheese? And that would just kick off these massive conversations, and girls loved it. And I was like, how is that? How is all of the things I could have said? How is cheese the leading pickup line out of all the things that I could have said? I don't know. I still haven't figured it out, but it works. And so, yeah, if you just don't take yourself seriously, don't make it serious, make it very lighthearted. And then proximity. So I just learned, you talk to people every day. Like, for example, you're not like hitting on people, you're just talking, you're just engaging with them, asking a question, because then if you get those reps up, then it makes it easier for you to talk to other people in the future. So you don't have the nerves. So like whenever I'd be at a social event, I would say, I'll talk to every woman in here, just not like long conversations, but I will at least greet every woman in here, especially the most attractive one that I'm intimidated by. I will go up and at least just say, hey, it was my duty to meet everyone in here. I haven't met you yet. And so I just meet everybody, and then I just move on. I don't linger there. I don't have to say anything cool or impressive or funny. I just say, hey, I just need to meet you. And then I turn my back and walk away. And, so it's just getting those reps in. A friend of mine, Steve, I had told him, let's do an experiment. Talk to an attractive girl every day, not to hit on her, just ask her for directions. Ask an attractive girl for directions every single day. And he was living in New York at the time, and he asked an attractive girl every day for directions, and he had a girlfriend within a month, because, sooner or later somebody says, oh, are you new here? And then they want to ask more questions, and then it starts a conversation, and next thing you know, he had an attractive girlfriend. But it's just little things like that you learn over time, and that I learned. And then I traveled. So I've traveled to 47 countries, most of them solo travel, and I've dated in at least half of those countries. And so I've learned a thing or two about the dating, how it works, what doesn't work. And a lot of times people say, well, what about the language barrier? One good thing about the language barrier is that if you are not really good at saying smooth, cool stuff, it works in your favor, because if you say something stupid, they don't know necessarily that you said something stupid. It could have just been lost in translation. And if you said something offensive, a lot of times they go, oh, maybe he didn't mean that. Or maybe it didn't translate correctly. And you can say, oh no, that's not what I meant. I meant this. And so there's a lot of advantages to not speaking having that language barrier. All of this dating this struggle for people like us, there is hope. And so I started this channel to share my knowledge of what I've learned dating across, 47 countries and being engaged 5 times, married twice. Like I said, I don't necessarily know about how to maintain a long-term relationship, but I definitely have some knowledge to share about the initial dating, overcoming anxiety, and getting those dates, meeting new people, and getting a girlfriend. So stick around. I will be dropping that knowledge and sharing everything that I've learned, not what they call gatekeeping. That's one of these new terms. I'm not holding anything back. I'll just tell you what has worked, what didn't work. And so this is no sleazy like pickup artist thing. I'm not going to be like, you have to have 6-pack abs or anything, or change anything about yourself, really. We're just going to change how you view the landscape and, just give you some practical tools. It's not like I just say, hey, just do this, because there's a lot of steps that you're like, well, I'm not going to do that. I would just say, hey, go to the mall and hit on 7 girls. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to show you things that like what you could do that you would do. Break it down into simple steps. So if you're looking to try to get a date or a girlfriend or something like that, we can do that. So stick around, and my name's Nick, and I'm your resource for this journey.